You think your intelligence protects you, but something else quietly directs it. What happens when your sharp mind obeys a colder, stricter inner script? If discipline turns your emotions off, your choices stop belonging to you. Mental intelligence sounds safe. It feels like awareness, calculation, and inner clarity. You notice details others ignore, you predict reactions, you read subtle emotional signals. This seems like protection, but it becomes dangerous when joined with strict discipline. Because then your mind stops being a mirror and becomes a silent weapon. A manipulator understands this fusion very well, even if unconsciously. They know that raw intelligence alone is scattered, curious, and sometimes emotional. They also know that discipline alone is rigid, predictable, and often inflexible. The real power appears when intelligence designs the plan, and discipline executes without hesitation. Imagine mental intelligence as the map inside your head, constantly updating and adapting. It tracks who reacts faster, who explains more, who stays silent when hurt. It notices which words calm people, which phrases trigger insecurity, which questions cause guilt. It measures emotional leverage like invisible currency, stored in quiet mental files. Strategic discipline then acts like a programmed gatekeeper over this map. It stops you from reacting impulsively, even when you feel provoked. It trains your face to stay neutral, your voice to stay measured. It forces you to delay expression until the exact moment benefits your position. This is where dark psychology begins to appear quietly, without any announcement. Because when your mind observes everything and your discipline blocks emotional outbursts, something shifts. You are no longer simply living moments, you are structurally shaping them from inside. You are not just responding, you are deciding how others will feel afterward. Machiavelli once said, "If you understand fear, you understand control." Fear here does not only mean deep terror, it includes small social anxieties. It includes the fear of losing respect, the fear of being ignored. When mental intelligence tracks these fears, strategic discipline learns to press them selectively. You do not shout, you do not openly insult, you rarely confront directly. Instead, you withhold a response at the exact moment someone needs reassurance. You give a delayed compliment when someone is desperate for approval and warmth. You answer a question partially, so their mind keeps turning, seeking your validation. This pattern looks harmless from outside, because nothing extreme appears on the surface. No dramatic scene, no visible conflict, only controlled speech and calculated timing. But inside, a silent psychological structure is being built, layer by layer. It teaches others to associate their emotional stability with your controlled reactions. Strategic discipline strengthens this structure through repetition, not through intensity. You consistently avoid over-explaining, even when they seem confused or insecure. You consistently remain calm when they are angry, making their reaction look unreasonable. You consistently hold back information, then release it when it maximizes your influence. The other person slowly adjusts without realizing they are adjusting. They talk more than you, they justify themselves, they overshare personal feelings. Your mental intelligence keeps recording, like a quiet internal surveillance system. Your discipline stops you from using that information too early or too obviously. This is where emotional draining begins under the disguise of normal interaction. The person feels they must constantly prove something, even when nothing is demanded clearly. They rewrite their words in their head, wondering how you will interpret them. They seek subtle signs of approval in your tone, your pauses, your expressions. You are not shouting, yet their nervous system is working harder around you. They feel watched but not openly judged, guided but never fully included. They sense distance, yet also feel strangely drawn to your rare validations. This is the emotional tax your discipline collects for your intelligence. Albert Bandura once said, "If behavior is shaped, the mind quietly follows." When someone keeps adjusting to your reactions, their inner narrative starts transforming. They begin to see you as a reference point for what is reasonable. They question their own perception more often, and your perspective less frequently. This internal shift gives strategic discipline a terrifying advantage. Because now you do not need to argue much, Their mind argues for you. They pre-edit their words before speaking to avoid disappointing your silent expectations. They may even defend your behavior to themselves when they feel hurt. This is dark psychology in a very clean outfit. No visible aggression, no open threats, no dramatic emotional scenes at all. Just a combination of alert observation and controlled timing, repeated again and again. The manipulation hides inside what looks like self-control and emotional maturity. The reason this mixture becomes terrifying is its invisibility. Most people are trained to detect obvious abuse, loud anger, direct humiliation. Very few are trained to notice delayed replies used as psychological tools. Very few notice measured silence, strategically placed to increase dependence and insecurity. You might even convince yourself that you are simply disciplined and rational. You tell yourself you are only avoiding unnecessary drama and emotional chaos. You believe you are just practicing patience, self-control, and thoughtful responses. Yet underneath, your intelligence and discipline are cooperating to shape other minds. This is not always intentional, but intention does not erase psychological impact. A manipulator with high mental intelligence and strong discipline rarely looks dangerous. They appear calm, composed, focused, and emotionally stable in almost every situation. People admire their control, while slowly surrendering their own emotional independence. The real danger appears when this person also understands reward and deprivation. They know exactly when to offer comfort and when to stay distant. They know when to give rare appreciation that feels priceless and unforgettable. They know when to remain neutral, so your fears stay unresolved longer. Over time, your nervous system encodes a simple pattern without conscious awareness. Comfort feels linked to their attention, discomfort feels linked to their withdrawal. Validation feels connected to their controlled kindness, anxiety feels connected to their quiet distance. You try harder, they adjust nothing, and still you feel responsible for balance. This is emotional draining in a sophisticated psychological format. You exhaust yourself trying to maintain harmony with someone who never collapses. You rewrite your behavior repeatedly, while their behavior stays disciplined and constant. You think you are imperfect, while they simply appear mentally strong and focused. The hidden rule is simple yet frightening. When intelligence maps your weaknesses and discipline controls responses, your freedom shrinks silently. You do not lose control through force, you surrender it through repeated micro-adjustments. The question is, how many of your current bonds quietly follow this pattern? You sense when someone is observing you, but you never notice the system behind it. You think silence means peace, but sometimes it is a controlled strategy. If someone trains your reactions slowly, you do not feel the training happen. Mental intelligence does not always work through obvious analysis. Sometimes it operates through micro-deductions that feel natural and harmless. The mind notices how long you pause before replying during tension. It measures how your tone changes when you feel unsure of your own viewpoint. It records which subjects make you guarded and which open you up instantly. Strategic discipline then builds a structure around these observations. It restricts your impulses, stopping you from reacting too soon or too emotionally. Your silence becomes a filter that removes unnecessary information from every interaction. Your neutral face becomes a mask that hides your evaluation process. Your calm tone becomes a tool that makes others doubt their emotional intensity. This fusion begins shaping the emotional climate around you. People approach you carefully, fearing they might say something wrong. They adjust their sentences before finishing them, hoping to avoid your disapproval. You barely speak, yet your presence rewrites their internal dialogue. Machiavelli once said, "If you control perception, you control outcome." Discipline lets you control how others perceive your reactions, or lack of reactions. Mental intelligence lets you predict how their perception will shape their future decisions. Together, these two forces turn simple pauses into psychological commands. You never raise your voice because you never need to. Your silence after their mistake does more damage than loud criticism would. Your measured agreement feels more valuable than casual praise from others. Your rare approval becomes a reward people crave without understanding why. Your intelligence understands which emotions guide them the most. Some move faster under guilt, some under fear, some under desire for respect. Your discipline prevents you from reacting randomly or emotionally. You press each emotional button only when necessary, never out of impulse. This is where influence begins shifting into control. Not through force, but through calibrated timing and psychological framing. You offer guidance only after they seek it desperately. You offer clarity only when their confusion reaches the perfect threshold. You offer reassurance only when they fear losing your presence. Your intelligence reads emotional patterns like weather forecasts. Your discipline prevents you from interfering too early. You let their insecurity rise enough to make your calmness feel like relief. You let their confusion build enough to make your explanations feel essential. Albert Bandura once said, "If the environment shapes behavior, the mind follows quietly." You slowly become the emotional environment people adapt to. Your calm becomes their safety, your silence becomes their discomfort. Your approval becomes their reward, your distance becomes their punishment. Every interaction becomes a subtle training loop. They talk more than you, revealing thoughts you never reveal back. They explain details you never asked for, hoping to earn your clarity. They become predictable, while you become unreadable. Your intelligence operates like a scanner reading emotional data. Your discipline hides this scanning process behind a calm demeanor. You look like a composed person, not like someone gathering psychological leverage. But every reaction they give you becomes part of your internal strategy. Your consistency creates an emotional imbalance. They feel they owe you emotional stability, even though you demand nothing openly. They adjust their behavior constantly, while you barely adjust anything. The power difference increases quietly with every interaction. This mixture becomes dangerous because it never looks dangerous. People trust intelligence, and they admire discipline. They rarely suspect how dangerous the combination becomes when used strategically. They mistake your calmness for kindness, your silence for wisdom. You do not manipulate directly, you shape patterns indirectly. You create conditions where people willingly lower their guard. You create spaces where they reveal their insecurities without realizing it. You create expectations where your smallest reaction feels meaningful. Your discipline amplifies every psychological effect. You do not chase validation, so your value becomes inflated. You do not reveal emotions easily, so your presence becomes high stakes. You do not overshare, so your rare words feel like truth. Many do not understand that emotional draining does not require drama. It requires controlled calmness used at the perfect psychological moments. Your intelligence understands which moments those are. Your discipline ensures you act only at those moments. Slowly, people reshape themselves around your stability. They remove behaviors you never asked them to remove. They adopt behaviors you never openly encouraged. They become loyal to your silence, not to your words. This is how influence becomes invisible domination. Not through conflict, but through subtle emotional alignment. Not through force, but through the quiet training of reactions. Not through speeches, but through the power of what you withhold. The real question now is simple and unsettling. If your intelligence and discipline can shape others, what shape are they currently giving to you? You think you notice manipulation quickly, but some forms never announce themselves. You believe discipline protects you, but sometimes it suppresses the warnings you need. If someone understands your internal gaps, they can guide you without speaking. Mental intelligence becomes sharper when it studies emotional micro-patterns. It watches how you react when someone disagrees with you calmly. It observes how your energy shifts when someone delays validation. It notices how your confidence rises or falls based on tone, pauses, or emphasis. It learns the rhythm of your emotional triggers better than you learn it yourself. Strategic discipline then uses this information with mechanical precision. It prevents the manipulator from showing excitement when you follow their suggestion. It hides their disappointment when you resist their influence. It keeps their emotional signals flat, forcing your mind to work harder. Your brain begins filling the gaps they leave, creating silent psychological dependency. You never see the control because it feels voluntary. You assume you are adjusting yourself for balance or peace. You think you are being mature by staying calm and agreeable. Yet you are aligning with their emotional structure, not your own. Machiavelli once said, "If you guide desires, you guide decisions." This guidance happens slowly, through carefully placed emotional cues. Their discipline stops them from rewarding you too quickly. Their intelligence ensures each reward arrives at the moment of maximum impact. You begin associating their approval with emotional relief. You begin associating their silence with emotional doubt. You begin associating their attention with stability and direction. Your nervous system forms these links before your logic notices the process. This is how mental exhaustion begins. You keep trying to decode their reactions, hoping to understand their expectations. You worry about saying the wrong sentence, even when nothing is wrong. You rehearse responses they may never even notice. Your mind works overtime, while they remain perfectly calm. Their intelligence benefits from your overthinking. Their discipline prevents them from over-explaining anything. You over-explain yourself just to maintain emotional clarity. They remain guarded, revealing almost nothing essential. This imbalance creates a psychological cycle. The more you reveal, the quieter they become. The more you try, the less effort they show. The more uncertain you feel, the more powerful their silence becomes. Albert Bandura once said, "If reinforcement becomes unpredictable, attachment deepens." Your emotional system becomes addicted to their inconsistent signals. Sometimes they offer clarity, then suddenly offer none. Sometimes they give comfort, then pull it back without warning. Sometimes they appear warm, then return to cold neutrality. Each shift pushes your emotions into a guessing game you cannot consciously escape. You try to act better, hoping to stabilize their reactions. You become more cautious, more soft-spoken, more emotionally careful. You adjust your behavior without being asked, yet still feel uncertain. This psychological uncertainty drains energy faster than conflict. Conflict has clear edges, but controlled silence has none. Aggression reveals intention, but subtle discipline hides it. Manipulative intelligence works here like a shadow behind the calm surface. You feel they are above normal emotional chaos. You believe they are composed because of inner strength. You admire their restraint, their patience, their minimal reactions. You fail to see that each trait supports their psychological advantage. Their discipline makes them predictable to themselves, but unpredictable to you. Your reactions become predictable to them, but unpredictable to yourself. You feel unstable in areas where they remain perfectly stable. You feel responsible for maintaining harmony. They do not maintain themselves. Intelligence makes them quick at reading emotional openings. Discipline ensures they act only when the opening benefits them. They ignore details that do not add to their leverage. They focus on details that give them deeper insight into your emotional world. Small things gain meaning in this structure. Their delayed reply becomes a cue for you to reflect on your behavior. Their short answer becomes a cue for you to adjust your tone. Their calm expression becomes a cue for you to question your reaction. In silence, you feel judged. In distance, you feel guilty. In calmness, you feel inferior. In rare kindness, you feel relieved. Emotional draining occurs without confrontation. You willingly invest more emotion into someone who invests very little. You repair misunderstandings they never acknowledge. You apologize for overthinking while they remain perfectly composed. The pattern deepens because the imbalance feels subtle. Their intelligence makes the influence invisible. Their discipline makes it sustainable over long periods. Their silence becomes a psychological frame you slowly live inside. This mixture turns your emotional independence into emotional obedience. You do not realize when you stop thinking freely. You do not realize when you changed your language to suit their expectations. You do not realize when your confidence started depending on their tone. The real warning hides in a simple question. If their intelligence is mapping your emotional patterns, what part of you is left unmapped? You believe you can sense control, but strategic control never looks like control. You assume discipline makes someone harmless, but disciplined minds hide deeper layers. If a person understands your emotional map, they can redirect you without effort. Mental intelligence works like an internal compass, reading psychological direction. It tracks how your mood changes when someone withdraws attention suddenly. It observes how your focus shifts when someone becomes unusually calm. It detects how your tone softens when you feel unsure of your value. It watches which emotions rise first when you feel misunderstood or overlooked. Strategic discipline strengthens this compass through absolute emotional restraint. It stops impulsive reactions that could expose intention too early. It removes unnecessary words that might reveal real motivation. It prevents emotional expressions that could break the illusion of composure. This creates a controlled environment where your reactions are more visible than theirs. You start believing your feelings are oversized while theirs are perfectly sized. You start assuming they understand everything more clearly than you do. You start acting like they are the stable center you should orbit around. This is not admiration. This is psychological positioning disguised as maturity. Machiavelli once said, "If you master consistency, you master influence." Consistency in calmness signals authority, even without direct commands. Consistency in silence signals depth even when no depth exists. Consistency in restraint signals power even when intention is disguised. You begin reading meaning into their every pause. You analyze their short replies as if decoding secret significance. You interpret their silence as disappointment, expectation, or emotional distance. Your emotional energy increases around them, while theirs decreases around you. Their intelligence knows how to reward only when your behavior aligns. Their discipline ensures the reward never appears too often. Your mind learns to chase small emotional confirmations. You unconsciously reduce anything that might disrupt their approval. This is how self-censorship begins. You avoid words that might seem too emotional. You avoid reactions that might seem too expressive. You avoid questions that might seem too demanding. You avoid truths that might seem too vulnerable. Albert Bandura once said, "If behavior adapts to stability, control becomes effortless." You adapt to their stability by shrinking your instability. You adapt to their calmness by hiding your discomfort. You adapt to their silence by filling gaps with emotional labor. Your mind bends itself around their psychological structure. The hidden mastery appears in small strategic moments. They ask a single calm question after you express confusion. Their neutral tone makes you reconsider your entire perspective. Their quiet presence makes you soften your emotional force. Their subtle disappointment makes you correct yourself quickly. None of this feels forced, yet all of it redirects you. Your intelligence becomes busy predicting their reactions. Your discipline becomes busy suppressing your own reactions. You become the one practicing restraint while they simply remain themselves. This switch is the real psychological trap. The one who feels more responsible always carries more emotional weight. The one who overthinks always loses clarity first. The one who tries harder always gives up power quietly. Your internal dialogue starts reflecting their influence. You question your interpretation before questioning theirs. You doubt your tone before doubting their silence. You hold back your emotions before considering their impact. Their intelligence reads this shift as increasing compliance. Their discipline maintains the same calm posture to deepen the effect. They rarely react strongly, making your reactions look exaggerated. They rarely reveal insecurity, making your insecurity feel amplified. You begin to admire traits that are actually tools. Their silence feels wise instead of calculated. Their calmness feels ethical instead of strategic. Their restraint feels respectful instead of observational. You fail to see the psychological architecture beneath the surface. Emotional draining intensifies when admiration replaces awareness. You defend their distance as thoughtfulness. You excuse their inconsistency as complexity. You justify their coldness as discipline. You rationalize your emotional discomfort as personal weakness. This is the quiet extraction of confidence. They take nothing directly, yet you lose emotional ground gradually. They demand nothing openly, yet you adjust everything constantly. They reveal nothing deeply, yet you reveal more than intended. This pattern never feels like manipulation because it lacks aggression. It looks like emotional intelligence from the outside. It feels like maturity from the inside. But the results mirror the deepest forms of psychological conditioning. The mixture becomes terrifying because it blurs responsibility. You believe you are correcting your flaws. You believe you are becoming calmer and wiser. You believe you are improving your emotional reactions, when in reality, you are adapting to someone else's psychological framework. The real warning now emerges clearly. If their discipline prevents them from revealing intention, how will you ever know what your mind is truly adapting to? You trust your awareness, but awareness collapses when your emotions chase stability. You believe you control your reactions, but some reactions are shaped long before you feel them. If discipline meets intelligence at the right moment, your mind bends without noticing. Mental intelligence becomes sharper when used to study emotional pressure points. It observes how quickly you apologize when someone grows quiet. It notes how your voice changes when you sense subtle disappointment. It tracks the exact moment your confidence drops during uncertainty. It sees which topics make your reasoning weaker or more defensive. Strategic discipline converts these insights into a stable psychological advantage. It removes unnecessary emotional feedback, forcing you to seek meaning constantly. It avoids instant reassurance, making your anxiety fill the silence. It hides real thoughts behind controlled facial neutrality. This creates an invisible hierarchy where your mind works harder than theirs. You begin believing they are emotionally superior. You begin assuming they always interpret things correctly. You begin adapting your tone to match their emotional steadiness. Slowly, they become the standard you measure your reactions against. Machiavelli once said, "If you want dominance, appear unbothered." Discipline allows someone to appear unbothered even when they feel everything. Intelligence ensures this appearance becomes a powerful psychological signal. Your brain reads their calmness as authority, even if no authority exists. Your emotional system rearranges itself to avoid their silent disapproval. You lower your intensity to match their neutrality. You soften your voice to match their calmness. You overthink small misunderstandings because they never react impulsively. This is how emotional dependency is engineered without intention or violence. You feel safer when they approve, even if they approve rarely. You feel anxious when they distance themselves, even if they say nothing. You feel responsible for maintaining a harmony they do not actively maintain. Albert Bandura once said, "If your environment rewards restraint, your mind rewires itself." Their consistent restraint becomes the environment your emotions recalibrate around. You start hiding frustrations to avoid breaking their calm image. You start filtering thoughts to appear more composed. You start shaping your personality around their psychological rhythm. Over time, your emotional instincts become unreliable. You second-guess your intentions before expressing them. You question your needs before communicating them. You doubt your clarity because they reveal their clarity so selectively. Their intelligence uses your doubt as data. Their discipline ensures they never overreact, making your reactions look excessive. They remain consistent, making your attempts to match them feel insufficient. The imbalance silently deepens with every controlled interaction. This creates a psychological loop with predictable stages. You worry they misunderstood you. You try to clarify yourself more calmly. You reveal more emotion trying to appear stable. They reveal less emotion trying to remain disciplined. You become transparent while they remain opaque. You become predictable while they remain unreadable. You become emotionally invested while they remain emotionally economical. You become the one adjusting, while they remain the one observing. The draining becomes invisible because it feels like self-improvement. Your silence feels like discipline. Your caution feels like maturity. Your emotional suppression feels like composure. But in reality, you are training yourself to fit inside their psychological pattern. They shape the emotional rules without ever stating them. They set the rhythm of communication without asking for control. They influence your tone without raising their own. They regulate your emotional expression by regulating theirs. The dangerous part is the illusion of balance. You believe you are stabilizing the connection. You believe you are preventing unnecessary conflict. You believe you are becoming a better version of yourself. But you are simply becoming easier to influence. Their intelligence identifies the exact behavior you modify fastest. Their discipline ensures they push only the reactions that benefit them. Their silence guides your emotional behavior without any explicit instruction. Their calmness keeps you seeking approval you never fully receive. You lose emotional ground softly, silently, and almost willingly. You stop expressing needs because they never express theirs. You stop seeking clarity because their clarity arrives only when convenient. You stop challenging their perspective because it always appears colder and stronger. The final twist unfolds quietly. Your intelligence begins working to protect their feelings instead of yours. Your discipline begins working to maintain their comfort instead of your boundaries. Your mind begins supporting their emotional structure instead of your independence. The real question now becomes unavoidable. If your inner world is being shaped by someone who reveals nothing, what exactly is being built inside you? You believe you still think for yourself, but shaped thinking feels natural from inside. You assume discipline keeps you safe, but discipline can also blind you. If someone controls the emotional climate, they control your internal weather. Mental intelligence becomes most dangerous when it stops observing and starts engineering. It learns how your nervous system responds to subtle withdrawal. It detects which emotions collapse your confidence fastest. It understands the exact timing where reassurance becomes irresistible. It knows when to stay distant to make you chase clarity. Strategic discipline then executes this knowledge with perfect steadiness. It never reacts in ways that reveal intention too openly. It never expresses emotion that could break the psychological illusion. It never rewards too often, preventing you from feeling secure. It never panics, forcing your mind to fill every silent gap with effort. You begin giving explanations they never asked for. You begin softening your voice without being told to. You begin regulating emotions they never requested you to regulate. You begin protecting their peace more than your own. Machiavelli once said, "If people correct themselves for you, your power is complete." This is the point where influence becomes internalized. You adjust automatically, without pressure or confrontation. You surrender emotional space willingly, believing it is your choice. Albert Bandura once said, "If the mind adapts long enough, it forgets the original form." Your emotional instincts shift to match their rhythm. Your boundaries fade because their reactions never challenge your compliance. Your self-worth becomes linked to how calmly they respond to you. Your identity reshapes itself around the structure they maintain. This transformation feels like maturity, but it is subtle psychological conditioning. You act more careful because they remain neutral. You act more gentle because they remain composed. You act more responsible because they remain controlled. Your personality bends while theirs stays untouched. They remain still while you move emotionally. They remain centered while you orbit around their stability. They remain quiet while you translate their silence into meaning. They remain unreadable while you try to become understandable. Eventually, you become the emotional engine of the connection. You reduce your needs to avoid disturbing their peace. You reduce your intensity to match their monotone presence. You reduce your authenticity to fit their emotional range. This level of influence is not loud, but absolute. Your mind no longer asks what you feel first. It asks what they would feel first. It asks how they might interpret your words. It asks whether your reaction matches their invisible standard. The draining becomes permanent when their psychological pattern becomes your internal rulebook. You start seeking their approval in moments where they are not even present. You start filtering your thoughts as if they are silently watching. You start measuring your emotions against their imagined expectations. Your intelligence begins working against you, not for you. Your discipline begins suppressing you, not protecting you. Your confidence begins shrinking inside a structure never built for your growth. Your mind becomes a reflection of their emotional architecture. This is the final and darkest transformation. Manipulation no longer requires their presence. Control no longer requires their effort. Influence no longer requires strategic timing. Your own discipline continues the work on their behalf. The real danger is not losing yourself to someone else. The real danger is believing the version you became was your choice. Mental intelligence fused with discipline can build empires or prisons. The difference depends on who designs the emotional blueprint you follow. The last question now stands like a mirror waiting for your answer. If your reactions have been shaped so quietly, how will you ever know which part of you was truly yours?